Hey, let's get into this because this first story, just, lighthearted, is terrifying. This is a terrifying, terrifying story about the government putting in new stringent criteria around emergency housing. This story is going to cause more homeless people in New Zealand, and it's that kind of, I don't want to say CEO talk, but it's that kind of business talk about outcomes and, the most vulnerable, yada, yada, yada. Bomber made a really good point last night about when they talk about the people who need it most. So that means what you do, let's say 30% of people need it. But if you start thinking about people who need it most, that means you might be able to cut it to 5%. And there's still 25% who need it, but they're not the ones who need it most. The ones who need it most are this little slither at the end. And there's still other people who need it, but they're not the ones who need it most. So we got to be very careful and see what they're doing here in their shell game. That they are, I believe now, I'm sold. I mean, I think I always was, but they are just trying to cut as much money as they can to fulfill their promises that they never budgeted for correctly. And now we're looking at emergency housing.
The government has labelled its new emergency housing plan as bold and radical, saying putting people up in
Radical, dude.
Hotels is far too costly, with taxpayers forking out $1 million a day.
Straight away. So, okay, fair enough. Don't put them up in motels. Where are you going to put them? Oh, there's not enough housing. So that means the street. So where are they going to go? Because there's literally nowhere else. But you don't want them in hotels, motels. Where are they going to go? Cars and streets.
The new plan includes putting greater scrutiny on those seeking emergency accommodation while pushing families with children to the front of the queue. Deputy Political Editor Mikey Sherman reports.
For years now,
that's doing a lot of heavy lifting. That word, greater scrutiny, is doing a lot of nasty, far-right heavy lifting.
Hotels across the country have gone from housing holiday makers to those who'd otherwise likely be homeless.
Emergency housing started as a system where a few people spent a short amount of time, essentially a roof over someone's head. What it's turned into is a institutionalised bureaucracy where now around 3,000 families live in those motels.
Of that,
Okay, do we need to stop there? Institutionalised bureaucracy, emergency housing. So he's basically saying this is no longer a need. This is just some people rorting the system and living for free. That's what he is saying, Chewy.
What a demon. Emergency housing, let's cast our mind back. Do you remember when there was an absolute crisis of people living in cars?
Yeah.
And Paula Bennett went out and about and knocked on car windows and actually found out that people really actually wanted to live in their cars, that it was by choice. We had a crisis of that. And then fast forward a little bit and we had COVID and we were going into a lockdown or a quarantine situation where people would be living on the streets during a respiratory pandemic. At the same time, motels, they were drying up. People were staying home. We weren't having travellers. There was a perfect storm of okay, we can snatch up a whole bunch of motels really, really quickly, and we can put people inside for this pandemic. That was the aim, because there were not enough places to house everyone in this country. I mean, we know that there are, but apparently we're supposed to kick in doors to make sure that people are living in empty houses. And that's the thing. What they're doing here is not solving a problem. They're not magicking up more houses. They are just cracking down on people at the bottom once again. It's mind-bogglingly evil.
Yep. We talked about Seymour being sort of Superman villain status of evil yesterday. I think maybe we're looking at the Batman level villains coming out in this one. It's pretty ugly.
3,800 families have children who've lived in emergency housing for more than 12 weeks. From April, a new Priority 1 category will put them at the top of the social housing waitlist.
I think it's fairly clear to say that bold and radical steps are needed to fix emergency housing in New Zealand.
You can create all the new categories you want.
Right,
yeah.
He's right.
That's not,
bold and
radical. That's not what they're offering.
Build more fucking houses.
Yep.
That's bold and radical. Bold and radical is saying, in this country, we should not have hungry people. In this country, we should not have homeless people. That's bold and radical. Let's do that. Let's do what Chris Bishop, that's what he meant, right?
I think so. I think he must have, or else he meant that and he's been corrected by the 9th floor once he left this stand-up. We'll keep going with Megan Woods.
But unless there are houses to move people into and out of motels, then you're not going to solve the housing crisis.
We don't really have enough housing to move these families out into.
The biggest chunk of the government's plan is...
I thought about this as well, Chewie. Now, I think, we had a nice little epiphany last night about the way that David Seymour negates evidence. I had another one this afternoon, actually not for this story, but when we're going to talk about Karen Chihor, is that this government says all the time, we're going to bring in outside experts. We're a bit worried about that when it comes to privatisation, but they're like, we're going to get the right people who have the answers and bring them in from the outside, except for when it's a policy they want to get rid of. Because when it comes to things like this, the experts are that guy from Salvation Army. They won't listen to him. The experts are, the emergency housing people. They will ignore them. They will ignore the experts when they don't want to put a policy in. They will seek outside expert advice when they do. And when we keep hearing them talking about they want to, be advised and work with experts, it's only for the stuff they want to push through. For the stuff they don't want, they stay as far away from the experts as possible. And I'm seeing it here as well, because all the people are telling them this is not the way to do it, yet they're ignoring them.
I find it quite telling that it's the Salvation Army as well. Now, remember in the past when National tried selling off a whole lot of social housing, they wanted outside agencies to basically buy those houses up and take over. And the Salvation Army was held up as one of the organisations that were going to buy a whole bunch of decrepit state houses with no work done on them. And it didn't happen. And then they went, well, the social agencies don't want it, so we'll just sell off the land. We won't build any houses. And I see a comment there that like the News Talk ZB crowd are fucking loving this stuff. And I've seen it in the rhetoric online. Who cares if the kids are hungry? It's the parents' fault. It's the parents' responsibility to feed them. Yeah, that might be the case. But the end result is a hungry kid that isn't going to learn properly. The evidence shows that. And a kid that's not learning, that is not engaged, goes off and gets engaged in something else. Gets engaged with a gang. Gets engaged with addiction. He gets engaged with crime. And then we're back in the same fucking circle again. And these guys don't see that. If we haven't got these, they need fed, they need a place to live. I don't care what the situation of the parents is. No child should be punished by the sins of the father or the sins of the mother. We need to break the system. We need to break that cycle. And these guys will make platitudes along those lines and then do the exact opposite to it. And the people that are in the comment sections fucking eat it up. And what it's from is, there is someone below me. That's why we have middle income earners stimping for millionaires. Like, you can't say, hey, look, maybe if we can't afford food, road, and housing, maybe we need to tax the rich more. And you have someone that makes the same amount of money going, no, you can't do that. It's their own fault. They're poor. It's like, bro, you are 2 paychecks away from being in their fucking shoes.
Well, dude, just to that point, we'll keep going, because they actually, one of the reasons for you being less likely to get emergency housing is, have you bought this on yourself? So that's a part of their actual overall things.
Pricks.
So let's keep going.
Ramping up scrutiny, including whether a person has tried other housing options,
So what have you done yourself?
previously paid their emergency housing bill,
Well, did you pay your bill last time, you people who were homeless?
and whether they unreasonably contribute.
And is it your fault? Unreasonably contributed to their immediate emergency housing needs. So these are ways that they're going to eliminate people. In other words, mental health issues, whatever, people who really life get out of control. Well, if you've gotten your life out of control, then maybe we won't give you a house. But we do this a lot, right? And I used to do this on Talkback. And then what? Okay, so you've given them and it hasn't come to this yet. They're going to reduce the number from, I think it's 21 days to 4 days as the initial stay time that's allowed.
4 fucking days.
It'll come up. So what's going to happen on day 5? You're like, and then what? It goes on. We'll keep listening though.
Contributed to their housing need.
We need to make sure that support is targeted to those who have the highest needs.
There you go. There's the highest needs. So if 20% of people need it, this government can now go, we'll give it to the 2% who need it most of all. And then there's another 18% of people who need it, and they can get cut away because the government can go, we're giving it to the highest need. We're focusing on the highest need. Yeah, I know you need it, but you're not the highest need. You've got no kids, whereas these guys, so you can just, you're too bad. Fight for yourself. That's the line we're going to keep hearing from. And this is the accountability we need to keep giving this government, right? The highest need versus need.
Initial housing grants will also shrink, going from up to 21 days down to 4 days max, while limiting staff discretion.
And that one as well, limiting staff discretion. So therefore, they want to lock staff into not being able to, we always get examples in the grey areas. Like this situation, whatever it is, it's not really black or white. So we need some discretion here. The government, want to stop the experts, the people, Chewy, on the front line that they're so proud to talk about with all their tax cuts and stuff, the on the front line people, they want to limit their discretion. The people who are there seeing the situation with their eyes, working through the situation, this government wants to limit their discretion. They want to take the ability away from them to go, hey, this doesn't really fit the normal box. We need to help these guys for these reasons, X, Y, Z. They're going to go tick, 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 no discretion allowed. No discretion allowed.
So
that's what these guys are doing.
The people that know the local, that know the people, that know these cases personally, that know the situation on the ground, the local services and providers, those people. No, we can't have them making decisions.
Yeah, the front office. Those people that they're not going to touch and not going to take any funding away from, those people. They're the ones on the front line.
Discretion.
I'm encouraging them to take greater consideration of the applications rather than just giving a grant straight away and we see a family and children go into a motel.
The Salvation Army says that comes with a risk.
With greater scrutiny is that you're stopping people who often are in need getting access to housing.
And without access, more people may end up homeless.
So I have grave concerns. The numbers for poverty here in Aotearoa haven't changed. 100,000 people are homeless. 60,000 of those are Māori. So I have grave concerns.
I'm not saying it is going to be perfect.
Nonetheless, the government is hoping it will prove successful.
Chris Bishop there saying bold, radical steps needed, Mike.
Yeah, bold, radical steps. So there you go, Chewy. They are going to put more roadblocks in the way of people getting emergency housing easily. They're going to focus on those most in need, which means those in need could then miss out. And they're going to handcuff the people on the front line to be able to use their eyes, ears, and brains to figure out a situation and force them to follow a checklist. That's this government.